When I came to Canada, I started my journey again as an IT professional. Worked in the IT industry for last 20 years. Came out of that 9 to 5 and joined a real estate networking group to become a real estate investor and become an entrepreneur.
I'm sure you might have felt stuck. How did you overcome them, and what would you suggest for people who are getting stuck?
And every day when I wake up, there is a roadblock. That is my mind, right? It stops me from doing it. And it says, hey, are you really worth doing that? Or is it really worth doing it? At the age of 45, I transformed myself from a 9 to 5 to an entrepreneur. It was really a challenge.
Life usually throws a lot of challenges, sometimes which are big, sometimes which are small. I've just completed a wonderful discussion with Mr. Shashi. I've learned a great deal of information from him. I've went through his journey briefly, like how did he start? I don't know, how did he become an investor? How did he become a life coach? It was a great discussion altogether. If you want to understand the basic thought architecture of someone who believes in himself, of someone who wants to grow, or of someone who wants to help others grow, this podcast is for you. Please do like, share, comment, and subscribe to the channel. The more subscriptions I have, the more comments I get, the more views I get. We're gonna have more wonderful people like Shashi and others. So, and I would also request you to go through our previous content. I've been trying to build an ecosystem of great people coming into our podcast, which would not only enable your success but also enable your well-being. Thanks a lot for tuning in. Enjoy the podcast. Hello, Shashi. Welcome to CLTV podcast. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, Shashank. How are you?
I'm fantastic. So we both are in a way related with at least with the name side. There, you are Shashi and I'm Shashak.
Absolutely. I feel like I'm saying my own name.
That's nice.
That's the reason you saw a pause in between. When I was trying to call. I was like, how do I pronounce it, right?
Wonderful, sir. Wonderful. So for the people who don't know you, do you mind taking us through? Introduce yourself to them, just to make sure that they understand where you come from and what you offer us to teach today.
Absolutely, Shashank. This is a great, thank you for inviting me first, and this giving me an opportunity to be on your podcast. My name is Shashikant Barrenkula. I go by Shashi. I live in Milton, Ontario. Moved to Canada in the year of 2005. Prior to that, I was in Australia. Before that, in Singapore. So left India a long time ago and made Canada my home for last 20 years, I believe. When I came to Canada, I started my journey again as an IT professional. Worked in the IT industry for last 20 years. During the COVID, I just stepped out of my comfort zone, or my I wouldn't say zone, but came out of that 9 to 5 and joined a real estate networking group to become a real estate investor and become an entrepreneur. So that's where my journey started.
Great. So what exactly into the the entrepreneurship what you mentioned? So what do you do in that arena?
That is true. So when I started my journey, it was mostly working with the gurus of Canadian real estate. So I've joined a couple of real estate networking groups. One was Keyspire, where I really learned how to invest in real estate in Canada. Learned extensive knowledge about different types of investments and working with and the mentorship. Got a depth of knowledge. From there, I transformed to become on small business owner. So what I do right now is buy investment opportunities. Kind of one thing I own right now is a bar, kind of a nightclub bar in a small town called New Brunswick. I also at one point owned and was partner in an accounting firm, mostly on the operations side. and multiple businesses. So this journey, becoming an entrepreneur, has opened up wide human network, right? Like, basically connecting with different people, understanding, and then opportunities are everywhere. Just you need to tap the knock the door, and then you'll see they're available.
Great, great, great to listen the success story. So I'm sure in the process of excelling in this side of your life, I'm sure you might have felt stuck at times. I'm sure you might have had hiccups. Like how did you overcome them? And what would you suggest for people who are getting stuck in the process? And what is the best procedure for them to come out of it from your own experience?
This is a very fantastic question. I've been, even during my journey, my mentors have said, in real estate, at some point you'll be in a situation that, or you want to buy an opportunity, but you wouldn't be, because there's a word called leverage. So you actually leverage yourself to an extent that you might not be able to get beyond what you are thinking as an investor, to say, okay, I want to buy a new property, but your equity, your income level, everything gets to the point that you can go ahead. And in that scenario, actually, these are the roadblocks. But when I look at that at this point, like, I had so many, not one, many. And every day when I wake up, there is a roadblock. That is my mind, right? Like, it stops me from doing it. And it says, hey, are you really worth doing that? Or is it really worth doing it? Or you actually, the, my own brain stops me many times, right? And then next morning, I said, okay, no, I can, right? But in that journey, I have learned there are possibilities if you speak to right people. Because people who don't know, if I ask someone who doesn't know anything, they might say, oh, that's it, we can't go beyond that. But when I start talking to people and exploring the opportunities, I said, wow, there are opportunities, or there are possibilities, but just you need to speak to right people. And never lose the confidence. That's one thing I've learned, is once that is down, it takes a long time to get back on track.
I'm sure you might have cracked that secret framework. So I want to dig deeper into your thought process here, so, and try to understand like how can so you mentioned something very interesting. You said every day morning you wake up and your mind itself is a hurdle, and which is true because most of the times we end up judging our own selves, and from your experience, from what you're where you're coming from, you have somehow cracked that framework. So do you mind taking us through that process? Like what do you think, like step 1, step 2, and step 3 and step 4, like 3 or 4 or 5 steps which you think one should follow to ensure that they enhance their thought process to achieve whatever they want in their own lives?
Absolutely. Again, if you ask me the steps, there's no concrete, build up steps. But one thing I would say is, getting out of the comfort zone. um I have learned that, over the period of my 9 to 5, I never was kind of a social, or I was social, but networking was my last thing. I used to come home, be with the family, and just that energy levels are not there, because I know there's a paycheck coming. But when you're an entrepreneur, there's no paycheck. Because paycheck is when you go out and really perform, and there's one big chunk of money that is coming at certain point that you're waiting for, and that motivates you a lot, right? Like, oh, because today, you see that there are so many bills that I need to pay, but there's money coming, but uncertainties are always there. So definitely, I've learned this over the time, being 20 years in the work field, as in different roles, having that every 15th and 30th paycheck coming in, and suddenly you come out and then say, I'm an entrepreneur, and then even addressing that to somebody, you will be like hesitant. Oh, am I really an entrepreneur? Am I really there? But over the time, we feel yes, because you wake up, you manage people, you get connections, you speak to banks, you speak to different lenders, investors. So these are all the things that I've as we learn, it comes not naturally, but I would say it comes to a point that you have to execute this, and you become better at negotiations, right? You become better at speaking to people. You try to mellow down a little bit because you want the deal to be get done, and slowly you build the confidence. And I was always on the other side of the equation, right? I was always an employee, but when you become an employer and your frustration levels go up because you don't see them performing the way that you want them to be performed, because now every hour is calculated, right? So all these things have given me an opportunity to see a difference on a different from a different lens, being that okay, I'm an employer now. Like, even if I don't get paid, I need to pay somebody because they are waiting for their paycheck. So coming back, it's a learning experience. I'm like, being an immigrant to this country, establishing something new. With first, you need to establish the connections, which is toughest part, right? Like, people have to trust you to say yes, I trust this person, and then after that you have to make sure that the trust goes beyond, and then your network um, gives you the opportunity to say, okay, we want to work with you. And and all these challenges, what came in the last 3 4 years, has given a mindset that, again, for me, there are days that I would say, okay, next 5 hours, survive, things will be better, right? So it will, from coming from 30 days, you go to 5 hours and say, okay, you know, these 5 hours, if you survive, I say Monday to Friday, survive, weekends take off because nobody's calling you. Right? You don't get the calls from the banks. You don't get the calls from your investors saying, "Hey, what's going on my opportunity?" Like, real estate, because real estate is not a good terminology at this point, because the way the market is
Yeah,
currently is, right? Yeah.
wonderful. So, from what you said, I've understood that there have been some crashes, and you are prepared for them. So, how do you think like one can prepare themselves in these kind of situations? Do you think they have to develop, but but I guess you already answered it. But when you said, look forward for next few hours, like the 5 hours thing, what you just mentioned, I guess that would enable us to look into uh, you know, what is in our hand and use the resources properly. That makes that comes out of experience, I guess. Okay. So, but then still, I wanted to know what are those moments in your life? Okay, do you want to come, give me one specific example, if you have any, to to take us through what has happened and how did you come out of anything which has troubled you in this journey so far?
Absolutely. As an investor, sometimes you have your own calculations and say, okay, whatever the financial model you build up, the variables are the market. Variables are many things, like, your personal credit. One thing I say is, like, I'm lucky that I have a family support, right? So basically, my wife says, yes, I'm there for you. So having that support is always a great opportunity to have, because if the family believes, then you have won the 90% of the battle. The 10% you can
Very true, very
do,
true. Can't argue with that.
right? Basically, you can see the 10% is outside of the walls of your home, so you can fight them. But the 90% confidence that your spouse says, yes, don't worry about it, we can survive this, it's just a storm, it will calm down. And coming back, there are multiple scenarios. Like, I had great opportunities with great investors. I'm not saying investor partnerships are bad, but sometimes one of the challenges is, like, you have a good business, but if you don't have a right business partner, then that can bounce back too. Because the mindsets don't. It's all about, like, when you're working in 9 to 5, you have a specific defined roles. Oh, I'm a senior team lead, or I'm a developer. This is my scope of work. But when you're an entrepreneur and you have a business partner, Um, when everything goes good, it's like a love song, right? Like, things are like, oh, yeah, yeah, we're singing the song, it's going. But when the equation comes, like when a villain comes in, right? Like, then you need to fight. And who wins is the biggest challenge at that point. But over the time, I've learned one thing I do is I meet the business partner now. We write each other each a trustworthy letter saying, okay, it's a capsule. Like today, I'm working with you, but our relationship is this, and then write a letter, make a capsule of that, and say if ever there's an argument, if there's a fight, there's a situation, read this letter or an email and see where we started. It always reminds us, like, we started at that point with a mindset and an intention that we want to both grow. And that really helped. And definitely it, it clears and brings the investors, my investors actually have appreciated that process in the journey.
Wow. So I see you understand the partnerships pretty well, not just in the business as well as um, in the life. So basically, it's all in the way how you create a trustworthy partnership between you and the other person, be it your business partner, be it your life partner, or be it your co-passenger in the car. That's a trust factor, right? So I understand from what you just said that there is always a trust which you build, and the example what you have seen, what you have mentioned, the capsule thing. So basically, you are re-enabling that trust in them. Like if something is going wrong, you would, dude, look at this. This is what we are committed for. That's a cool strategy, I would say.
So that's a very good question. Life coach, because I had my entrepreneurial journey and spiritual journey, and now where I'm at this point, I want all the experiences that I have, like the relationship experience, the business partnership experience, the career experience, and being a dad, being a son, and having parents in different country, and kids here. All these experiences have made me a person that I said, oh, I've experienced this. Now, how can I share? And with the coaching, the framework that I have learned and used for all my coaches that I met, coached them, have given me more insights. And now when I try to understand the person's what they really need when I have a discovery call, I can understand how can I guide them, because someone can come and say, hey, I want to change my career. I did. At the age of 45, I transformed myself from a 9 to 5 to an entrepreneur. It was really a challenge. And that experience, if somebody says, oh, I need that kind of an insights, I'm here to help them. And, you know, understanding the journey of the family, the relationship, because when you're in that journey of entrepreneurship, how your relationships can be different, because you're going towards the wealth part, and now you have your relation, your family is looking for the time that they lost. So all this I have experienced it. How can I give that to somebody who doesn't have to struggle, but they can come to me and then say, hey, can you guide us? Can you guide me? And then I can do that. I've done that, so I have the experience to coach people in those areas.
Amazing. So you want to share your experiences with others so that they also succeed, and you add your part to their story. That's that's amazing thought process, I would say. Wow, that was a very deep conversation which I had today. It was very short, of course. I really wanted to discuss a lot with you. I dig deeper into your thought process because when you said vendor financed what D is I'm not wrong.
Meet
What
the
is it?
T, vendor finance, vendor take back, which is called a
Vendor
self
take back. Okay.
financing. Yes.
So I that was that clicked something in me. Maybe probably when you have time, some other day we'll sit for another podcast. We get deeper into the investment options in these troubled times. how does one manage real estate specifically, because there's a huge challenge which is happening right now. How do you monetize it? How do you get best out of it? Yeah, we'll sit some other time and I'll coordinate with you on that. But I really appreciate your presence today. I really appreciate your knowledge sharing, with us, because you've not just taken us through your journey, you have also um, you know told us the framework which one needs to operate so that they achieve whatever they want in life. So any final parting statement for our audience?
You know, I say we all have to live our life. Doesn't matter what challenges come in. And when I look back, at 10, 15 years ago, I had no vision of being an entrepreneur. But when you taste something new, I'm not saying in a bad way. It's like but when you people never tasted coffee, but they have tasted it now. They're like, oh, this is good, right? So um, when you taste something, it's new. Then when you get addicted, sometimes you get carried away, right? But you just have to be grounded, which is one of the things that I've learned is to be grounded. Don't judge anybody because we all are human beings. Um, I went to the up and down cycles, so I've seen my real up. I thought that was like I'm doing extraordinary, but everything goes up, comes down, and that's what I've learned. Like when it comes down, you just have to you need some more time to bounce back. And that point, the low point, is where we all have to sit back and say, yes, it's coming. The up is we just need time, and we have to look back into our successes that we have done, like achieved, and keep reiterating that things will be fine. You know, things are going to be fine. Yes.
Beautiful, sir. Beautiful. That's a really a statement which we can call this discussion a very fruitful one. Thank you.
Thank you.
I really appreciate your time again. Thank you so much for joining us. Namaskar.